everyone, this is Dr. McClellan, and I want to talk to you today about the musical scale and how the notes within the scale relate to each other. Before we get started, I want to show you what I have here. It's called a dulcimer, and it's a bit like a guitar. If I pluck a string, get a tone, and I'm plucking up here. So when I pluck this string, the length here is vibrating. When I move up a fret, that length becomes shorter and the pitch becomes higher, and so on. Now this differs from a guitar a little bit because these horizontal lines called frets, which determine where the string vibrates from, are not evenly spaced. These show the whole steps and half steps, or whole tones and semitones of the scale. So the larger distance is a whole tone, semitone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, semitone, which should be familiar from your lessons. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, the traditional major scale pattern. That makes this note the tonic. Supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, leading tone, and tonic, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1 again. So within these 7 notes of the scale, there are hierarchies and relationships, and that's what I want to talk about. So you can compare that set of relationships to a kingdom, and the tonic is the monarch, the king or the queen of the whole kingdom. And this is a happy kingdom, luckily, because in this, well, at least it's happy in the sense that everybody in the kingdom worships and admires the monarch very greatly, and the monarch is a benign and kind monarch. And all of the other subjects relate back to that monarch and want to be close to it. So, for example, we have the tonic. If we go to the leading tone just below, which is a semitone away, notice small fret distance. That leading tone is like the queen's personal assistant. He lives only to serve her. The leading tone has no life of his own. He lives only to make the queen happy and serve her every need. So you can feel that kind of tug or pull back to the tonic. Moving up to the second scale degree, the supertonic. The supertonic also has a kind of tug or pull back to the tonic. So there's a famous tune you may know. It goes like this. Okay, what did I do wrong? I violated one of the core rules of the kingdom, which is that the supertonic really, really badly wants to go back to the tonic. It should go more like this. With this great satisfaction to, right? So the supertonic, again, relates back to the tonic. The second most important note in the scale, I'm going to jump up here to the dominant, which is the 5th of the scale. And it's the second most stable or powerful note. If this were a chess game, the tonic would be the king, the dominant would be the queen. It would be the most powerful piece on the board in terms of its ability to determine and influence the shape of a melody. Though still the tonic is the most important note because it's the center of everything. If you lose the king, you lose the game. The queen is flexible and powerful. I don't mean to confuse you with my mixing queens and kings. This is the queen of the realm, but the king on a chessboard. This is the queen of a chessboard, but maybe in my kingdom this is the regent, the head advisor to the queen, who helps her make the important decisions. And as in this famous tune, jumps straight up to the dominant. And in the same way that the tonic has these two attending notes, which serve only to live only to serve the tonic, the dominant has its own attending note, which is the submediant, or the sixth scale degree. Right? And that again appears in this tune. That submediant wants to go back to the dominant. Now for the third most important note in the scale, which is the mediant. Tonic, mediant, dominant creates a major chord. Now the mediant has this half step right above it, the subdominant. And similarly to the way that the leading tone leads to the tonic, the subdominant leads to the mediant very powerfully. It's actually another type of leading tone in the sense that it leads very powerfully. Half steps or semitones lead more intensely to their neighbor notes than whole steps do. Submediant, sixth scale degree. It does want to go down, but it could almost as easily go up to the leading tone. The subdominant is much more comfortable doing that. Imagine starting back on the tonic. Now, if you think about it, there's this gravity, this powerful pull back to this. Let me do that again. Feel it, and there we go. Very similar to really wants to go back to this, or really wants to go up to the tonic. So back to our reference tune. There's that subdominant really wanting to go to the mediant, which has its own kind of gravitational pull back to the tonic, but through the supertonic, second scale degree, and back to the tonic. So that gives you a rough idea of each of the notes. Tonic is the monarch of the kingdom. Leading tone is the personal assistant. No life outside serving the tonic. The supertonic is kind of another attendant, but can go to the mediant. The mediant has its own foot servant in the subdominant, which leads it back to the mediant. Dominant is second most powerful and ultimately wants to go back to the tonic, and it has its submediant sixth scale degree that goes back to the dominant, and then the leading tone up here goes up to the tonic. So these are not exactly rules. Think of them as tendencies, or really desires on the parts of the note. The notes want to move certain directions. They have volition. They have almost personalities and relationships to each other. So it's something to think about as you're creating and listening to melodies.